The launch of Cyberpunk 2077 should have been a time of pure celebration. After a long wait, we finally saw the game launch. It's actually real, but unfortunately, technical issues have marred the celebration surrounding the game, as there are enough technical issues on PC that it has certainly affected people's experience of the game in a negative way. And on consoles, base consoles in particular, last-gen consoles, the technical issues are especially bad, to the point where the state of the game is at best unacceptable, at worst downright unplayable for many. And what's especially egregious is the way CD Projekt Red did not disclose the fact that the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions would run so badly. In fact, they went out of their way to try to hide that by limiting the review process to the PC version only, and by limiting reviewers' ability to show gameplay footage until the day of the game's launch in certain regions, December 9th. So going to Metacritic right now, you'll see that the PC version of the game, the user score is sitting at a 6.6, which is more positive than negative, but still mixed, with a lot of people touting that they would have a really great time with the game if the bugs didn't get in the way. And then on Steam, you see mostly positive reviews at a 79%, but not as high as it could be. Now, the PlayStation 4 version of the game, and same with the Xbox version, the user score is being bombarded with negative reviews of people citing that this is just not acceptable. This is just not how a game should launch. It is very much a compromised version of that experience, compromised enough where it's just not tenable. And beyond the user score, you can see that the Metascore itself is being affected by websites, news outlets who are flat out saying this is a version of the game we would never recommend. JuVideo gave the PlayStation 4 version of the game a 35 out of 100, and both of these outlets are not recommending people get the base PS4 version at all. And even on PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X, the game still has enough performance compromises that it is far from the ideal experience. The best way to run the game right now is on PC with high-end hardware, or on the next-gen consoles in backwards compatibility mode, which runs at a more consistent, close to 60 frames per second with dips here and there. But if you run the game on base PlayStation 4, you'll see frame rates dip into the 10s and 15s. At that level of performance, actions requiring precision like shooting and driving are an uncomfortable experience. Now, yesterday, CD Projekt Red did release hotfix 1.04, which has helped some, but most are reporting that this certainly doesn't fix the game. There's still a long way to go. And even the PC version, while it is the best way to play right now, it's still compromised by bugs and glitches that take you out of the experience, and a lot of people have been experiencing some performance issues and crashes as well, so there's still a long journey to go before this game is in a state where it feels ready and finished. The end result to all of this, all the negative PR surrounding Cyberpunk 2077's unfortunate technical state, is that CD Projekt Red's stock has fallen by a whopping 29% in the run-up to Cyberpunk 2077's launch, according to the following games industry article published on December 11th, 2020, which is yesterday. At the time of writing, the stock has dropped by 29%. The decline can be partly attributed to complaints around bugs and glitches, which have been spreading via social media. Obviously, when word starts to spread about technical issues that may compromise the experience of a game, people might hold off before purchasing the game, and so that might affect the longevity of a game's financial performance. It might affect people's outlook on the game. The optics surrounding Cyberpunk 2077 have been more negative than investors expected, and so their confidence in CD Projekt Red has waned. The article continues by noting that even after the launch itself, the company has failed to boost stocks, with the share price slipping 7.3% over the course of December 10th, and then at one point it fell as much as 7.8%. And this is even after CD Projekt Red revealed that the game had been pre-ordered 8 million times by users before the game's launch, and no doubt that sales have only skyrocketed since. It's not going to be long before Cyberpunk surpasses the 10 million mark, and I certainly foresee this game going way past the 20 million mark in the not-so-distant future. By comparison, Witcher 3 only achieved 1.5 million pre-orders before launch, so yeah, 8 million pre-orders before launch is just significantly higher. The article also went back even further and looked at CD Projekt Red's entire history, and from their all-time peak, their stock currently has dropped a whopping 31% compared to that time period. And all of this comes in light of the company's stocks having already suffered a 25% decline in the 2 months that followed this peak, in large part to do with reports of CD Projekt Red's employment practices involving crunch, and also the game having been delayed a third time after having gone gold just 3 weeks before the game's previous release date. And now with the launch of Cyberpunk 2077 being quite rough, that's only been exacerbated. Though CD Projekt Red, in terms of game sales, has plenty to celebrate, given that, 8 million pre-orders is insane. But analysts are also predicting that Cyberpunk 2077 is likely to become the 10th biggest selling game of all time. And in fact, sales for Cyberpunk have been so good that CD Projekt Red has already covered their entire development and marketing costs. They've straight up said that pre-order sales alone have covered costs, and sales exceeding that will just be profit for CD Projekt Red. Now, casting a dark shadow over all of this is the fact that many of these sales, millions of units, were sold through the false marketing of the PlayStation and Xbox versions of this game, where CD Projekt Red didn't allow reviewers to receive a review copy of the console version of the game. They were not allowed to show their own gameplay footage until December 9th, the day in which the game launched in certain regions. They waited until the very last minute before allowing reviewers to show the technical issues that they experienced, and so the lack of transparency on that front, especially when it comes to the console version of the game, has led many to view CD Projekt Red as deceitful in their marketing practices surrounding Cyberpunk, and I would have to agree with that. And I expected much better from a company like CD Projekt Red that touts itself as consumer-friendly, as always being communicative and transparent and respecting our money and all the things that they've said. And not to mention, this especially burns because CD Projekt Red has touted time and again Cyberpunk 2077 will launch when it's ready, and in its current state, it's certainly not ready for launch. Even the PC version, now that we know that the Day 0 and Day 1 patches certainly didn't fix a lot of the issues plaguing the game, even that version is not ready for launch. This is an unfinished product. And even their most ardent fans are expressing their grievances in the Cyberpunk subreddit, where scrolling down you can see that a lot of these posts highlight the issues surrounding the game or the backlash surrounding the game. So right here, one user's talking about how they forgot to take out the example text and sign, so you see in the game itself, example text, example subtext. People making jokes about the state of this subreddit, where it's all gone to chaos. There are memes highlighting how the state of the final game did not meet up to what was advertised. Memes of the state of this subreddit right now. Here's a meme equating Cyberpunk 2077 to the Fire Festival, which is an event that, similarly to Cyberpunk 2077, had technical issues, and the final state of things didn't end up living up to the hype. Now, in response to all this, CD Projekt Red has already thanked people for their support with the 8 million pre-orders, and have said that the journey has just begun and we're hard at work on the upcoming fixes and updates to the game. Much like with Witcher 3, which launched Buggy and eventually did become a much better game down the line, especially on consoles. No doubt Cyberpunk 2077 will be a much better game down the line, but like with other titles that I've criticized for the same reason, people bought the game on launch day so that they could play a product that meets certain standards on that same day, not months down the line, so this is still not excusable, especially the console versions. And then beyond that, CD Projekt Red executives have been communicating with their developers, with the ground floor developers, letting them know that the launch of the game and the less than ideal state of the game is their fault, and so they're no longer basing the bonuses that developers will receive off of the Metascore, which I can't believe that's a practice that's still going on. So this was reported by Jason Schreier, who tweeted on December 11th, 2020, quote, "News, CD Projekt executives took responsibility for Cyberpunk's Buggy launch in an email to staff today, saying this year's performance bonuses will no longer be tied to review scores given the circumstances. Before, the threshold was a 90 plus on Metacritic. Team leads at CD Projekt give out bonus performance tokens to employees every month, a system that some say has implicitly encouraged developers to crunch. To get tokens, you'd want to show your boss you were working longer and harder than your peers. In the email, studio head Adam Badowski said it was his and the board's responsibility for Cyberpunk 2077's messy launch, and here's a quote: "We underestimated the lengths and complexity involved to make this a reality, and still you did everything you could to deliver an ambitious, special game." On one hand, it's definitely a good thing that CD Projekt Red executives saw the situation and pulled back on this criteria of having to meet a 90 plus on Metacritic if employees are to receive a bonus. On the other hand, why is this a thing at all? Basing whether employees receive a bonus off of a number on some website and based on what journalists output in terms of their own numerical criteria, that's just an asinine way of giving out bonuses. Bonuses should be based off of how well a game performs. If it sells well, employees should get bonuses, period. And this whole idea of giving out performance tokens in such a way that encourages unhealthy internal competition and that straight up encourages crunch, as tokens might be given out to the people who stay at work the longest, that's just an incredibly messed up and manipulative reward system. You know, the more I hear about everything surrounding Cyberpunk 2077's development, the more it becomes clear that the issues here really lies with management, not the developers who work their asses off to make this game. And poor management certainly affects the final quality of a product. And management, executives, are the ones who decide when a game releases. They're the ones who set the release date for this game and announce them the way they did, when what they should have done was make sure that their game is in a place where they can confidently define a release date where by the time the game launches, it'll be in a good place. But it would seem as though executives woefully underestimated the complexities involved with this title, which Adam Badowski admitted in his email. But this realization doesn't change the results. It really sucks to see all of this because I truly believe that the substance of the game, what they've created here, really was a special experience when things were working, when bugs didn't get in the way of my immersion or my gameplay. But so much of that is marred by the way CD Projekt Red handled marketing, the way they handled the review process and how duplicitous that was with a lack of disclosure and a lack of transparency, and the way they launched the game when it was not ready. What CD Projekt Red should have done is focused on refining the PC version and the current gen versions, PS5 and Series X, and delayed the last-gen versions, PS4 and Xbox One, until they were more playable, or maybe canceled it outright if the tech surrounding Cyberpunk simply won't allow the game to run properly on last-gen consoles. It was CD Projekt Red who promised that the game would function well on last-gen consoles, so it is up to them to deliver on that front. It is not players' fault that they bought the PS4 version or Xbox One version expecting that it would run well or run adequately and meet a certain bar, because CD Projekt Red set those expectations with what they've said and by releasing the product on those platforms. I mean, there's the implicit expectation that when you release a product, it will function on the platforms that it's released on. Beyond backlash from console players in particular, CD Projekt Red has done a number on investors' confidence in them. We'll see how CD Projekt Red does in the coming weeks and months if they manage to pull themselves out of this rut and really enhance the game to the point where people feel satisfied, but the first impressions will certainly not disappear. CD Projekt Red has definitely lost some of that trust and goodwill they've built up over the years. We'll see if they somehow make it up to us in the coming weeks and months through the free DLCs that they release, the expansions that they launch, and the patches that they release, the updates that they add. We'll see how it all pans out. So there you have it, folks. That's one man's take on all of the developments surrounding Cyberpunk. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on all of this. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.